Hey everybody, my name is Jordan Evans. I'm a piano teacher and a piano player. And today I'm just going to be sharing some tips I came up with. I got 3 tips for you today that's going to make your playing sound more mature and more advanced. And this is no matter what level of piano player you are and no matter what instrument you play, I think these are things that you can apply. So the first one I'm going to talk about is phrasing. And this is a very classical music idea, the idea of phrasing or creating a phrase, but it's also found in jazz. Singers do this a lot, but sometimes when we play an instrument like piano, it's kind of difficult to understand what phrasing is simply because we don't have to take breaths. And so by phrasing, it's like we have a start, somewhere where we start, somewhere where we finish. And so the reason why it's so applicable to singers or even horn players, they sing, they say this, da da da, and then they have to take a breath. It lands. So how we apply this as a piano player to make our music sound more organic, let me think of a tune. Okay, that's perfect. Yeah, just an old tune, Yankee Doodle. So if I'm just playing that, da 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 da, that's my first phrase, and it starts and it finishes. It says something, and then that's the end of the sentence. And then the next sentence is, that's my next phrase, and then my next phrase is even more dramatic. Just like that. So that's my phrase in music. And the way that looks in applying that, it's really, really great for classical music. Let me think of a piece. Yeah, this one. So I'm going to play this one without much phrasing. So just kind of playing it through without any kind of start or any finish in mind. So, which is actually tough to do. Yeah, that's that one. So that's just playing it through. No kind of idea of what my phrasing is. But then thinking about it, where am I starting? Where am I finishing? I'm going to play a little bit more. So starting out, I want to start really small. Think about the conversation. Think of what the melody's saying and kind of create something out of that. So you can see that's the end of the sentence, and now I'm going to speak again. Totally done there. So let me try and think of another piece with a different contrasting style. If you listen to jazz music, lots of this is in jazz because the jazz people, they'll be soloing and there's lots of breaks and they take turns with each other. So lots of phrasing in that. If I played a piece like, yeah, this won't be as obvious, but we can still create phrasing because that piece I just played a second ago, it's a waltz by Chopin, and it has very, very very clear melody. This next piece doesn't really have as clear of a melodic idea, so we kind of have to be a little bit more intentional with our phrasing. So that's kind of the end of a phrase right there. And so you see I'm creating these little phrases. Where's my sentence starting? Where do I want it to go? What are the characters saying? And stuff like that. So yeah, when you're playing music, and this is great for improvising too. If I was just to improvise. Where's the end of that sentence? And I'm just making this up. I could have... So there's the end of my sentence. An end of another sentence. So you see what I mean? We're adding this phrasing into our music that just makes it sound more mature. Second thing that's really important. And yeah, just one more thing about phrasing. Just kind of being aware in your mind, where am I starting? Where am I ending? What is my idea behind this? And in a lot of sheet music, you'll see big slurs that kind of will encompass phrasing. String players see this a lot. And so that kind of gives you an idea of what the composer was intending with his phrase. All right, next one is technique. Whatever instrument you play, having really good understanding of technique is going to help you significantly. Excuse me. So as a piano player, you want to, and I'm going to lean back for a second, really have a nice relaxed posture with your backside kind of on the edge of the chair And then your elbow should just be slightly extended to a point where your hand is nice and relaxed above the keyboard. You'll be able to see it better with this hand. And then my wrist is straight but also relaxed. We don't want any tension in our playing. So that's the biggest takeaway. Remove the tension. And the way I have my students do this is I'm like, pretend like you just washed your hands. You're shaking all that water out. We're getting really relaxed, really relaxed. And then the next step to that is I say, imagine like you're holding something underneath, like a ball or a tennis ball, and then just flip your hands over. And that should get you to a really nice, relaxed technique. And for this, we can move our wrist a little bit, but we want to keep it mostly in our fingertips. And I think this is where a lot of beginner musicians kind of have a pitfall, where they'll play with really flattened fingers and kind of keep it all in that one joint. But we're not doing ourselves any favor because we have multiple joints in our hand. So we have to kind of practice striking with our fingers. And a way to do this, let's see, where can you see my hand best? Yeah, you can see it right there. Just really practice striking the keys using your finger. And this is kind of like level 1. Just really keeping it all in our finger. Another really cool exercise for this, my old teacher, Dr. Kim, called them torture exercises, where you hold everything down and keeping that nice shape. We're going to keep all of our fingers down, but just activate one at a time, which is way harder than you think. And then if you want to really challenge yourself, you can take different chord shapes. So take like something that stretches you out, keep all your fingers down while just activating your chosen finger. And then do stuff like this together. Various exercises to just practice your, your articulation of your fingers, which is the next point I want to get to, which is why I was trying not to say that. Okay, so the fingers is the first part. There's a couple other technique pitfalls when it comes to cross-unders. So whenever we're doing scales, we want to make those crossover and unders really smooth. I see a lot of students who will really move their arm. We don't need to. It's just smooth. Everything kind of goes up naturally, and then we also come back down naturally. Just like that. And so a great exercise for this is just thumb under exercises. Do a 5-finger scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the next time, go 1, 2, 3, thumb, 2. Get that cross under. And then do 4 fingers with your thumb crossing under. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And really practice that. It'll be the same for the left hand. And the caveat to this is we don't want to accent any notes. It's not. We just want to do. Almost don't even let them know where the cross under is. So that's great technique. Also, when we're doing our scales, we don't, like I said, we don't want to move our wrist at all because that creates a bad and imbalanced sound in our playing. So we want to just kind of, if you're going to do anything, angle your hands inward slightly, but leave them in that position. And when I say leave them, one thing that I struggle with when I'm trying to get a good technique is tensing up because of that. Still leave your hand relaxed. It's something that happens over time. And then you'll start to get really nice, smooth scales. One more thing with technique. Sometimes it's good to over-exaggerate. So when we're playing, kind of lift your finger up. And if you're ever having a passage of music that you're struggling with, one of my students is learning a piece and it goes. And he's having a lot of trouble with those arpeggios up here. Yeah, that's how it goes. So I was telling him, really pop it, put your finger right back up. Oh, whoops. And do it just like this. Complete accuracy is our goal here. But it's almost like resistance training. If you play a sport, you have to spend time doing the technique in order to perform. If you're a quarterback for a football team, you have to practice your different throwing and your follow-through, which is what we're doing here. We're creating a little resistance. We're making it a little harder while also keeping that accuracy. So then when it's time to perform, we can go very fast with it and keep it articulated. Let me see if I can. And then it does it again. 4. Just like that. Yeah, that piece is awesome. The whole phrase of that is. Oh man, see, it actually goes a little bit faster than that. I'd have to warm up on it. But yeah, that's just one example. Sometimes we want to come up with creative ways to get our playing to sound smoother. And then the last thing I want to talk about is dynamics and articulation. And so this is something that a lot of people don't really think about as much, and that's the level at which we play. We play an instrument that is pianoforte. We can play very softly, or we can play in a way that's loud and bombastic, etc. And so we want to really have a mastery of those different levels and when to use them. And one thing that I like to tell my students at first is it's almost like when we speak in our mind, we think quietly, and then we speak quietly. Or if I'm thinking loud, I'll speak louder. And playing piano is very similar to that. The thoughts we have in our mind. So picture something nice and tranquil. And we'll be able to play quietly. But then if we're thinking of something massive, we can do that as well. And so that's kind of our dynamics, which goes into our phrasing, the first idea a lot, knowing when to play loud and when to play quiet, when to come in and when to come out. And so and I think with a lot of young musicians, they'll either stick with one dynamic. I have some children who will play quietly the whole time, and then others who play so loud the whole time that we have to mute the piano because it's so loud. So just finding out how to use the different styles will make you sound much, much more advanced as a player. And then just with, even with pop music, a lot of times people will play the verses and the chorus and the bridge all at the same level. We need to play, the introduction can be kind of loud depending on the song. Maybe bring it down for the verses so we have somewhere to take it during the chorus. And then in the bridge, maybe start quiet, get loud, which leads us back into our chorus. And that's great for songwriting or any kind of musicianship. Articulation. So there's different types of articulation in music. And some of the most common on piano is our legato. Very smooth. And the way to get this is kind of, I don't lift up this note until I play the next note, and they just replace each other, which is different than just relaxed playing, where we just one. It's not staccato or legato, we're just, this is just relaxed playing. Whereas with legato, I'm very intentional about when I release. And then we have staccato, which is like touching a hot stove. You want to get right off there. Some instruments have this easy. I play violin too. In violin, we have a bow, so it's really easy to, if I want to play legato, I just keep my bow moving. But when it's time to play staccato, you just keep your bow really, really sharp, which is easy. Whereas it's a little tougher on piano because you have to really be intentional about what your fingers are doing. All right, easy exercise to do this is we're going to just go up legato, down staccato, and vice versa. We'll do it both hands. Just 5-finger scale. Good, let's try and do staccato up, legato down. Good. And just different things like that. Accents are another really big part of this. So if I'm playing music, I'll just pick a progression. 1, 2, and 3. Da, da, dum, bum, da, da, where I put those accents really make a big difference. And then the offbeat is what's accent. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, da, da, dum, da, da, da. I didn't mean to make that sound bluesy, but it just kind of started happening. Yeah, so where we can play some parts loud, some parts quietly, and you kind of start to find ways to implement that into your playing. Trying to think of a musical example where we have accents. I can't think of any off the top of my head. Well, maybe. In Moonlight Sonata, third movement, I'll have to move this a little bit. We kind of start quiet. And then we accent that. Back to quiet. Accented. Yeah, whatever it is. And then we're down to quiet again. Loud. Loud. Etc. Yeah, I don't know. Just thinking, this was not scripted at all. I actually just came and sat down. I couldn't think of a ton of accented ideas off the top of my head, but it is really important. And once you learn it, you'll hear it in music all the time. Really common is in pop music, drummers and bass players. they won't just play the notes. They'll actually be accenting certain notes, especially in pop nowadays. It's really groovy, and that's kind of what creates that. Where do we put our accents? Where do we put our non-accents? Drummers especially, because I play drums too. We only have a few things to use, so the way we accent and non-accent really, really impacts our style. So I hope these tips could help you guys just have a better understanding of what music is for your playing. If it, not that you're playing is dull, but if you ever feel like your playing is dull, here's some ideas of how you can kind of start to advance that. So phrasing, and so if we're playing a piece, we want to start somewhere. Yeah. And then it kind of ends. Yeah, this is the piece. It's called the Swan, and it's in 6/4 actually. So the phrasing for this, for the way it's written, there's kind of like 3 beats of one phrase, 3 beats of another phrase. That's 3 beats, and then the next phrase starts. And now the next phrase, another one. And now there's a new phrase where it kind of changes the harmony a little bit. And then we're back to the tonic, which is a new phrase. Whoops. Another phrase. You can hear I'm just putting a subtle accent in my pinky right there. Right here. And now the harmony changes again. Another. Whoops. I can't remember the notes, but you see what I'm saying? We're just putting a little bit of an accent on that to create our phrase. Technique, we want to really make sure that we're playing in a way that's congruent with, number one, health. If you're playing with bad technique, you can hurt your hands, you can hurt your back, but also in a way that makes the piano sound nice when we play it. When you play piano, you're hammering some strings, and so the way that we play them does make a big difference in how our sound sounds. And then just dynamics and articulation. Thinking about, are we playing soft, or are we playing loud, or are we playing sharp, or are we playing very smooth, etc. But sweet. I hope this was able to help you guys. I had a lot of fun just making it, and I'll see you on the next video.